my channel. This is Tita Lavinia of Titas of Pageantry, and as promised for this episode, I will be giving you the Tita Lavinia / Titas of Pageantry non-committal picks for Miss Universe Philippines 2024. You really wouldn't want to miss this because this is the only list that matters. So please make sure you stick around. Please subscribe to the channel as well as hit that bell notification button for your weekly pageant picks. Hey guys, I hope that you're doing well. I know that I owe you this episode. In fact, I completed all of my graphics very early on, but I have been hustling lately. I have been on the road all week. I haven't really had the time to sit down, film myself, and edit content for you. But I'm hustling because by the time I publish this, it would have been Sunday, and by Sunday evening, we would have seen all the girls at the preliminaries of Miss Universe Philippines 2024. Will this change anything? Most likely not, because if any of the girls that we have not been discussing, that we have not shed some light on, if any of them rises to the top by the completion of the preliminary competition, I think that the list still remains anyway. So based on what will happen, I think that if they get a top 10 or maybe up until the top 15, there will still be a possibility of expanding the number of semifinalists, and just like last year, we might even see a top 18. So don't worry if I don't get to discuss the other girls, because I'm sure if I missed someone and you felt that they were supposed to be in the list, then that should give you enough reason to think that they might have an actual shot at the semifinals. Okay, so I've scooted over to this part so that we'll have that space here for my visuals. And before I formally start, I just want to put it out there that yes, no one has the balls to say this, so I'm gonna say this out loud. It seems that the Miss Philippines and the Filipino Festival turned out to be such a huge flop that they made an announcement that right after the competition, which will take place on May 22nd at the after party, they will also crown 4 other girls for the other franchise that they acquired initially for the Miss Philippines. Now, I don't know what's going to happen with that arrangement because, in all honesty, it was not that well received and it was not that well produced. So that's also probably the reason why they're pushing for taking some of the girls from the Miss Universe Philippines pool and assigning them to these new titles that they recently acquired. Now, unfortunately, I don't have any more information about the other 2. I mean, they don't really matter that much to me as an analyst. Maybe I can talk about what they're looking for, at least at the level of supranational. So without further ado, let me go ahead and discuss this, because it has been established that that franchise was a flop and they're piggybacking off the Miss Universe Philippines branding, and they're trying to do like a workaround, because we all know that NJKN is not too happy with other crowns being distributed at a national pageant for Miss Universe. So I don't know. I think that they did a really good thing in working things around. If this is going to be the practice, then yeah, they should drop the Filipino Festival. They should actually drop Miss Philippines too. But anyway, who really cares? So I want to go now to my non-committal picks, wherein I give you information on their strengths and weaknesses, or maybe areas of improvement. So I will be starting with someone who I know will easily enter the semifinals. I'm talking about Bacoor's Victoria Velasquez Vincent. Now, Victoria had a pretty shaky start at Miss Universe Philippines. None of us had any idea that she was going to go back. And when she went back, at least for the first few weeks, she wasn't as well received as she is now, which means that she really worked hard for where she is now in the roster. So if we're going to discuss her strengths and weaknesses, well, definitely for strength, there is physique. Victoria is one of the tallest girls in the competition, and she is also well proportioned, meaning to say it's easy to fit clothes on Victoria. It's also pleasant when we see her in a swimsuit. And one of the things that, you know, are easily noticeable about her physique are her long legs. So I'm really hoping that they at least get to polish her pasarela so that we could have more focus on those beautiful long limbs. So Victoria is also a great candidate for an international representation precisely because she's the real deal. She has credentials. As a practicing architect, she knows how to engage with people. She also knows how to talk about things that are beyond what we get to talk about on a regular basis. So I'm sure we can talk to her about architecture. I'm sure we can talk to her about sustainability. I'm sure she's present and out there when we talk about history and culture. And in the past, during the first time that she joined the competition, her being Filipino was actually questioned because she seemed foreign to us. She looked foreign. And I'm really glad that for this year, this narrative is no longer part of her story. We have fully embraced Victoria and the way that she attacked this competition. She has also fully embraced her Filipino side. So another strength that I feel will really help Victoria is her strength in her communication skills. I'm not just talking about the way she speaks English, but the depth and the content of what she is saying. Now, these are all great qualities if we're looking for someone to send at Miss Universe in Mexico, because we will be sending someone who is sophisticated. We will be sending someone who seems so sure of herself. And this is someone that we want to see in the Mexican setting. Looking at her weaknesses or looking at her areas of improvement, well, definitely I see two that could be improved. I'm not so sure if this is something that can be done by the finals, but if she is chosen as Miss Universe Philippines, then she will definitely have to step up in the consistency of her movements and her energy. Because during the whole competition, she was up and down with her energy, and there were competitions and challenges in between that we thought Victoria would ace, but she would just cruise along. And most of these activities of Victoria cruising along are activities that are mostly on the performance level side. Performances that includes a lot of pasarela, a lot of posing. So I definitely feel that if she has a shot at this, and if she wants to be the most well-rounded candidate for Miss Universe Philippines, to be sent to Mexico for Miss Universe, then Victoria definitely has a great shot at this. Next, I want to discuss about Miss Baguio. Miss Baguio is a newbie in the competition, and this is such a great opening salvo for a young woman like her. So Miss Baguio, Tara Valencia, is someone that really doesn't need a lot of buzz because she can create buzz on her own. She can be a really good representative for Miss Universe in Mexico because based on her strength, her face alone is something that we don't have to continuously discuss. Her facial features is something that we don't even have to defend, meaning to say, si Tara po ay hindi thesis beauty. Now, her height plus her youth and her personality, which, you know, really reflects her youth, is something that I find really appealing. In fact, a lot of people are saying, you know, Tita, if we're not too keen on communication skills, Tara would be such a great representative in Mexico because she can go head to head with the Glamazons, with the Latinas, just because she has the personality and the right projection for it. And, you know, we would not be embarrassed because we would be sending a beautiful, full, blooded Filipina in Mexico. And I find this whole idea delicious. And I find that if she was given more time to polish and to really prepare herself, then yeah, I would be totally on board with what everybody has been saying. Now, in terms of Tara's areas of improvement or her weaknesses, let's focus on her body because she's so tall. Now, her body, because of her youth, she probably just does not have the amount of like muscles or toning that we're used to. But I think once she gets crowned and once she has more time to really work on her body, the toning part or like showing all of the lines and the contours of the muscles will be developed. But right now, I'm seeing that she has lost a considerable amount of weight, yes, but we need more work on toning. Another thing that I want to discuss with you is Tara's ability and her strength or lack of when it comes to communication skills and Q&A. Well, there have been an improvement in the way Tara speaks, but in terms of depth, in terms of content, and in terms of wit, and how quick she responds, these are things that they really have to work on. Now, I want to be upfront with this because I don't want to keep on writing about this, and I don't want to be like under the table when we discuss this all the time, because whenever Tara goes out for interviews and challenges, I do get a lot of DMs blaming me as to why Tara hasn't been as polished as expected. So let me just give you an idea. I know I've discussed this before, but let me give you an idea where I am coming from, because this is one of the teas that I want to put out there, just so we're clear. I don't want to be extra polite in this, because I did feel rather slighted by the team that was handling Tara on this. So as you all know, guys, I don't have the best relationship with the people of Miss Universe Philippines. And the reason for this is because I guess I've been, more vocal in pointing out areas of improvement. And I am aware that the Tita Lavinia persona rubs people the wrong way. So over the years, I have heard reports of the organization not wanting Titas of Pageantry to be involved in any way. That's also one of the reasons why I never get invited. Also one of the reasons why I myself self-regulate and not get myself seen in a lot of these events, because if you're not wanted, why would you even push for it? So with all of my interactions with the Miss Universe Philippines girls starting in 2020 during Rabia's time, guys, let me tell you that I have been keeping my side of the bargain, meaning to say, as much as I would love to interview them, as much as I would love to train some of these girls, I would never actively seek out these girls for interviews or for training or for any other questions. I will always wait for them to approach me. So if ever I train people or if ever I interview people, they were the ones who approached me. It was never the other way around, except for one other incident, which I will be telling you all a little later on. So the reason why I'm saying this is for you to gain an understanding why Tara is the way she is. And I think that Tara has potential. It's really the people around her who isn't helping her to reach that full potential. So these people from Baguio, they were the ones who reached out to me. They asked for my rate. They asked for the services that I could provide, which was, of course, communications training and Q&A services for 6 sessions at around 2 hours per session. So I gave them my rate, and they were kind enough and fast enough to pay me in full. In fairness, they paid me in full. Now, the way that I understand is that there was a person who would schedule our sessions, and this person was also one of Tara's trainers. So from my understanding, I was not the only one training Tara. And so Tara trained with me thrice, but I was just noticing that even her training sessions with me were spaced at least weeks apart. And this was a little frustrating on my part because I really wanted Tara to succeed. Being a representative of Baguio, I was really pushing for her success. And I couldn't do that because I also could not compete with the schedules they had at Miss Universe Philippines. And I also could not compete with, of course, Tara's schedule, and I didn't want to impose. I always would say that I'm just here. If you need the training session, just schedule it with me. I will be the one to adjust. But I was getting a little frustrated because every time they would schedule a session with me, it would be weeks apart. And I felt that, what can you absorb if you have training sessions that are weeks apart? So I just felt that it just was not helping her. Now, I noticed that Tara gave out interviews to several vloggers, and I did not approve of this because as her trainer, I felt that she wasn't ready enough with her narrative, with her emotions, and how she was going to attack these questions. Because there are some vloggers out there who will drive views by asking the most difficult or the most controversial questions. In short, walang alalay kay girl. So I was really upset about this, and I told the team the repercussions of allowing Tara to be interviewed without proper guidance. And I don't know if they listened, but I did point it out there to at least give me some form of respect and at least let me know if she's going to be interviewed by an entity, by a media personality, so I could prepare her. And then Tara and her team started planning a meet and greet with the press, and this was just a few weeks ago. And I remember them giving me an invite the night before the actual event. Now, I wasn't going to make it because I was on vacation, but just the gesture of inviting me the night before the actual event, I kind of felt slighted because that's not polite. You don't do this. I mean, if I were a member of the media, I would understand, but I thought I was a member of the team. So I felt that they should have given me lead time at least for the invite. So by the next day, when all of my media friends were already at Tara's meet and greet, I get another phone call. And this time it's from a member of a media, seemingly confused about my role. And asking me things like, aren't you Tara's communication trainer? And I said, I think so, but I also think that there are several of us, because apparently at Tara's meet and greet, the host just kept on telling people that, he took over Tara's comms training, and he ended up being Dr. Zed, who I had no idea who. So it was my first introduction to who Dr. Zed was. And I think some members of the media who were my friends just, felt a little off because they knew I was working with the girl. And they were hearing things like, I've been doing this with Tara, I've been training her. So I expressed, dismay over being like out of the picture. And then I told her team, that's fine actually if she has other trainers. I agreed to be discreet. I did not agree to be invisible. And so this is where I am coming from when it comes to the discussion on Tara's training, because as of the moment, I heard from a little birdie that Dr. Zed is no longer involved with Tara and that Tara is now working with a new set of trainers. So what does this all mean? I feel that there has been so many chefs in Tara's kitchen that so many of us have tried to impart something with Tara. So I'm really hoping that when it comes to communication skills and Q&A, because she has, changed so many trainers along the way, that she gets to nail it this time, because she definitely has the potential. As for the Baguio team, it's really unfortunate because they kind of messed with the wrong person. I will talk. I will say something about this. And in the future, if you're going to seek my services, if you're going to pay me for training or for promotion or for PR or for consultation, make sure that you're coming to me with the full realization of where I stand in the organization, because I will not overstep my position knowing that the organization isn't too happy with my involvement. So if you know that and I know it, don't push for it. Push for it if you know you want my services. That's it. But yeah, will she be a great representative for Miss Universe? Yeah, I suppose so. But you know what? She could also be considered for Miss Charm. I mean, why not a back-to-back for Baguio? Next, I want to talk about Miss Bulacan. She is, of course, Stacy Manalo. And she's very inconsistent for me, but when I get to really lock in on a material that blows us away, then definitely Chelsea's your girl. Very recently, I posted a series of photos from her Bragaish shoot, and I really thought that she aced that. So I want to talk about her strengths first. Definitely her face. We have two Black Filipinos at not two, three of them, if I'm not mistaken, at Miss Universe Philippines. But I think I'm also more drawn to Miss Bulacan because her face is more on the feminine side. I'll talk about Alexi later on, of course, but her face is more on the feminine side. And I think that this is still appealing when we're talking about the Mexico setup or the Mexico setting. I'm sure that they want someone that will stun them, but I'm also sure that they want someone feminine looking still. Now, She's very versatile. She has an amazing portfolio as a model, and this really contributes to her versatility. The photo that I used for this graphics is of her looking sultry, looking like an Egyptian goddess, but in other photos she definitely can work sweet and Barbie-like and sophisticated. So I absolutely love the idea that she gets to employ her modeling skills, because she's pretty in demand, to her fight at Miss Universe Philippines. What I want to talk about is her weakness and her areas of improvement. Because she is mainly a model type, she doesn't really have that much of a clout or that much of a support system that's loud and proud for her. So she does get a little bit of recognition here and there, but when it comes to consistency, sometimes she's available, sometimes she's around, sometimes you have no mention of her at all. So when she gets the recognition, then it's definitely recognition because we were blown away by a material or by a performance that she showed us. But when it comes to consistency and recognition, I'm afraid she is not quite as popular as the other girls. Will she work in Mexico? Absolutely. Even her comm skills is pretty solid. But as you all know, even in pageantry, this is still a popularity contest, so she definitely has to work on that. Next is Miss Caintas Stacy Gabriel. Now, personally, Stacy is my girl. I've known her since Binibini, and my personal bias is with Stacy precisely because I resonate with this girl. I know how good she is, and I understand her love for language and her love for wordplay. I've said this so many times before. If we're going to talk about her strengths, her face is angular, her face is interesting. You can do so many things about this face, and she knows how to play with her facial expressions. Personality is something that we don't have to defend. The personality and Stacy, they go hand in hand. When you think about Stacy Gabriel, you think about communication skills, you think about personality. So, these are all part of her genetic makeup. Communication skills, of course, she's very lucky. She's fluent in Filipino, which endears a lot of people to her, but she's even more beautiful when you hear her speak in English, because she's deep and profound, and she's very descriptive with her words. And I think that if you want to listen to someone, if you want to learn from someone, you learn from someone like Stacy. She has an amazing support system. And I'm not talking about her fans, I'm talking about her family. Her mother is her guiding light. She is always there. She has people who has been solidly behind her back. And on top of it, she has such a solid advocacy, and she's been very consistent with this. And this is rooted in the truth. This is rooted in what she has been doing, what she has been practicing all along. So by the looks of it, I think Stacy is one of the most solid representatives in this competition, because she has the ability, she also has funding to make all of this happen. Comm skills is something of an ace when we talk about Stacy Gabriel. And I guess she is lucky, of course, that she gets to travel and she gets to be exposed, and she has like this worldly feel about the world, or the universe rather. So you can talk to her about so many topics, and you can really ask her of her opinions, and more than anything else, her voice sounds like butter. However, I also feel that when we get to talk about weaknesses or areas and improvements, her strength in communications can also spell her downfall. Now, a lot of people have been pointing out that her narrative is already something that we're familiar with, but when she speaks or when she answers a question, she goes right around the bush. She rarely speaks, or she rarely answers straight to the point. And this can prove to be fatal to someone as confident as Stacy Gabriel. So if she wants to really wow people, because everybody knows that she's already great with her comm skills, she just has to be decisive, and she just has to go straight to the point. Another thing that might be an area of improvement or a weakness in Stacy, and this is something that she has addressed beautifully in the past, is of course her height. She is one of the shortest girls in the competition, but not really the shortest, because height ideally is not part of the whole discussion now. It's just that maybe the Filipino pageant fans just aren't ready in sending someone who is shorter than 5'7" or maybe 5'6". We haven't done that before, or at least not before 2010. We've always sent our girls who are competitive in height in terms of the other girls from the international community. So the height is just something I find really minor, but it seems that pageant fans are still clinging to it. Unfortunately, very little can be done. So to offset this, Stacy really has to extend her legs, which I think is something that she has already been doing. My other concern is with her consistency and styling, because Stacy has a vision for herself. She has a vision to present herself as someone modern and sophisticated, someone that is far removed from a pageant patty look. However, because she is eager to give us a different flavor, and because her team is, mostly acquainted with the fashion side of things instead of the pageant side of things, sometimes the whole styling ends up a little severe. And I just noticed that from her styling team, they do have a habit of pulling out clothes that just does not fit Stacy in the best way possible. Meaning to say, I see her being dressed in clothes for women who are like 5'9" or 5'10", so you could really see the length. It's a little longer, making Stacy shorter than she actually is. But again, these are all very minor, and in the grand scheme of things, if Miss Universe Philippines decide to send Stacy to Mexico, I do not think we would be embarrassed to send someone spunky, full of light, and full of love for the Filipino people, and full of love for just the whole community and the sense of community that pageantry brings in. So Stacy's your girl. Next, I would love to discuss about the beautiful lady from Cebu. Of course, I'm talking about Christina Hanson. When she started out, we had to convince ourselves that, yes, she's back. But honestly, when she started out, it was just a little wobbly. She couldn't get her footing in terms of styling. She couldn't get her footing in terms of being competitive body-wise. Of course, she's slim, just like everyone else, but the body when she started out at Miss Universe Philippines just was not at par with everyone else in a bikini. So I'm really glad, first of all, that that has been rectified. Chris definitely has lost a considerable amount of weight, and we can now see those beautiful jawline, beautiful bone structure, beautiful neck, beautiful bones, lovely bones, they say. So when we talk about her strengths, definitely strength is with the Cebu sash. Strength is with that beautiful face. It's comparable to just how impactful that face is when we see her face all glammed. We see visions of a Catriona Gray in there. We see spunk that is attributed to Pio Wurtzbach, and we just see a classic, beautiful pageant face from the time of Binibining Pilipinas, and it just seems so nostalgic for us. One of her strengths also is her personality. I mean, she is already a sought-after host in the Cebu scene, in a lot of these events, so she definitely can hold her own. And of course, that goes with her communication skills and of course her experience. Chris is already an international pageant girl. In fact, if things were in her favor, she could have easily won Miss Intercontinental in 2014. As for her areas of improvement, I know that we have celebrated this and discussed this, but age might also come into play, because as we all know right now, they're just really fighting for Miss Universe Philippines. If this isn't in her favor, it might be difficult for Chris to even be considered for the other titles, precisely because of her age. So I just feel that in terms of weakness, her age is just very limiting for now. She has, what I mentioned, lost a considerable amount of weight, so she just has to really work on her toning, because we don't want Chris to just lose weight and look skinny. We want Chris to lose that weight, but to look healthier and to look really sturdy and solid. And then, of course, another thing that I noticed is also inconsistency in styling, because for the first couple of months, and she was always styled in a princessy style. So I really want her to explore something that's a little more edgy. And also her social media, I feel, has to be worked on, because right now I feel that everything that's being shown is just really focused on um, just the beauty of her whole journey. So we're missing a little bit of her life in Cebu. We're also missing a little bit of her social causes. So if she ties things around, and knowing that she is going on a steady pace, she has great momentum now that we are at the tail end of the competition, I honestly would not be surprised if she ends up taking the discussion is, of course, Miss Iloilo, Alexi Brooks. Well, definitely this girl will propel herself to the top. I don't think that the folks from Iloilo will forgive Miss Universe Philippines if they do away with her. She will definitely be on top. So when I judged Miss Manila, I was in conversation with the heads of Aces and Queens, as well as the head, of course, of Kagandahang Flores. And we discussed about this. And Alexi was also one of the girls that we discussed. And, you know, they asked for my opinion, and I gave them my opinion. So I feel that Alexi's strength is, number one, her androgyny. We dabbled on androgyny with Bea Luigi. We dabbled a little bit with Michelle D. So to go full circle, I think that Alexi is gonna be your girl. If you want shock value at Miss Universe in terms of the types of girls that Miss Philippines has been sending, then I think Alexi would be that amazing jolt of energy at Miss Universe. Com skills, you might say that, you know, her accent is just a little wonky. You don't know where she came from. I don't really care about it. I just care about the content and the narrative and the depth of what she's saying. She is an able communicator. And maybe you're not just feeling the vibe because it's very provincial. It's not the way we speak here in the city, but that shouldn't hinder Alexi from really excelling and from really putting out what she wants to say. And then, of course, there's the narrative. I mean, you know, it's always a great narrative to if you have a provincial girl who's really into sports, because it shows the competitive side of someone. It also shows the discipline that someone has in her. So I think that the narrative of like being raised by a grandmother and thriving in a provincial setting like Iloilo, I think that this is absolutely appealing. Advocacy also seems to be really solid. She's been talking about this, and she's been very vocal about her Abanse Babae movement. So the mere fact that I remember what she's advocating for, and I think they already did their jobs in making sure that her advocacy, her social work is familiar to everyone. Of course, as a Philippine athlete, her credentials are solid. She just recently graduated. So by the looks of it, you know, this is someone who can definitely pursue her dreams because she has already ticked the boxes that needed to be finished even before going for something like this. So her support system is also one of the strongest in the competition. I mean, they would probably die for this person. And we need this. We need this in the international setting. I mean, right now, it's been pretty quiet with the Indonesians, but can you imagine if Alexi ended up winning Miss Universe Philippines and she gets sent internationally? There will definitely be a lot of buzz for the Philippine candidate, and a lot of buzz also relates to a lot of bashings. And I think that go head to head with the bashing, her fans can go head to head with anyone who crosses Alexi. So just for this alone, I am really waiting for what they can do if in case Alexi wins Miss Universe Philippines. Let's talk a little bit about her weaknesses. I also feel that her strength in androgyny is also her weakness, because her androgyny is also limiting her. And I could also have this one connected to styling, because her androgyny is affecting her styling. And I'm not talking about her clothes, because she can access high-profile designers who will allow her to wear their creations. I'm talking about hair. I'm talking about makeup. Well, not so much makeup, because, you know, she's proven to be a beautiful beautiful girl when she is beautifully made. But I will agree that the hair is something that they have not addressed. I have seen this hairstyle since 2021, and we have discussed this so many times just to at least give her some versatility, and her team hasn't been saying anything about this. Fluidity is also something that I feel she has to work on, because even if she has the foundations for good pasarela, it just still seems a little heavier with the movement. So if she can master fluidity and wave-like movements, I think that she is good to go. Now, I want to talk a little bit about her social media presence, because I feel that Alexi's accessibility is also in question because of this. Alexi has a narrative of a small town girl from the province who rose to the top through sports, and you hardly see that in her socials. Her socials are created in such a way that it would attract brands. It's not to show Alexi as a real person, so it's always just a different imagery from what she is actually peddling. Now, I talked about accessibility because Alexi is one of the hardest girls to reach in the competition. You cannot tag Alexi Brooks. You cannot start a conversation with her. She hardly says thank you to people who post her videos or her photos. She is not present in just the grassroots system that is propelling her to the top. And I think that this is problematic, because if she ends up winning Miss Universe Philippines or one of the titles, it will be harder to convince people to vote and to convince people to support her, because she has no presence in the fan base area. Maybe in the people of Iloilo, maybe she has some interaction, but tagging her in materials or like starting a conversation with her, it is a little difficult. Now, I do want to say this about Alexi. I'm afraid it might help her. I'm afraid it might not. But I want to say my piece about this whole thing with Alexi, because I think that this is something that will affect Alexi in the long run. Her team really has to change the way they deal with people, because I think that the way they used me in the whole campaign was really unsavory. So just to give you a little bit of an idea, Alexi Brooks has been in our consciousness, at least at this channel, as early as 2022. I gave you guys an episode and I discussed about her presence. I think to most of you, that was your first initiation to who Alexi Brooks was. So the team that handles Alexi Brooks, I'm not gonna name them, but I have gotten in touch with them over this. These people were really started getting our attention as early as 2021, in the middle of the pandemic. They would message us, they would ask us to repost photos, repost videos, and we would see each other at events. And of course, we would be accommodating, because, you know, we're always very supportive of these girls. We weren't paid or anything, but we knew that they were getting ready to prepare someone for the nationals in a few years' time. So we were in conversations with Alexi's handlers as early as 2021. And so when they handled someone at another franchise, of course, again, they sought our help for promotion, for a little bit of hyping, or just to show attention to the girl that they were grooming. And as early as 2022, they were tagging us to a lot of Alexi's photos, and we were reposting them. So from the looks of it, since we've been in conversations since 2021, it's like a 3-4 year period. I felt that they were doing all of these things to ensure that we would support Alexi by the time Alexi becomes ready for Miss Universe Philippines. And so when Alexi finally decided to become Miss Universe Philippines, I took a step back, because I knew that the organization would not be happy with my presence there. But these people kept on tagging us. These people kept on saying, you know, thank you for your support, blah, 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 blah. And so when the Atisa Manalo interview came out, and this was an interview that Atisa and her team asked me to conduct, a lot of you from the TEAta Lavinia channel asked if I could secure an interview with Alexi. I did not want to, only because I was keeping my distance, only because I knew what the answer would be. And so In February, because of your urgings, I reached out to Alexi. I also reached out to her handlers just for formality. I knew they were not going to say yes to an interview, but I wanted to tell you that I did my part, and if they say if they said no, then I would be upfront with you as well. And so the reply that I got in February was that they were going to check it out. We move on to May. May 18, May 17. Actually, I did not have plans of pursuing this interview. I just wanted to check out what happened because I heard from a little birdie that Alexi secured an interview with one of the vloggers because her team reached out to one of the vloggers saying that we really want you to interview her. So which means that when they declined me in February to say that they were going to get back to me, that was not the same narrative. So a few nights ago, I messaged her team and I said, "Hi, I messaged you in February. Are we still able to arrange an interview?" I knew they were going to say no, of course, but I wanted to see if the narrative would match. And they said, "Oh, sorry, TEAta, we don't have the time anymore. I'm going to coordinate with the team from Iloilo, blah, 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 blah." So definitely, this was not the narrative that I heard, that they were the actual folks who approached the vlogger to conduct the interview. So, dun palang ekis na tayo. And so, I replied and I told them that, you know what, of course, I understand if we don't have enough time anymore because it's less than a week from finals. I don't think that in reality an interview can be arranged for that, so that's okay. But to tell me that you tried and you're gonna check with the organization and the organization in Iloilo, this is such BS because I do know that you guys were the ones who asked the vlogger to interview Alexi. What I'm pointing out, guys, is that had her team told me no, I would have accepted it. But I just felt so used the whole time because they really made sure that we supported them for years. And all they had to do was just decline my invitation for an interview and not give me Etcho's reasons for not allowing this. Because dun palang nagkakitaan na tayo sinong nagsisinungaling, sinong hindi. So the way I see it, these people already know of my situation with Miss Universe Philippines. So if this is the case, you shouldn't be seeking out my approval. You shouldn't be seeking out exposure on our page because that's pretty much using us to your advantage. And so I did feel slighted because I felt that I invested years of being nice to them, thinking that they could at least give me a proper decline instead of coming up with so many BS with, yeah. So will I think this is gonna help Alexi in the future? You know what, if she ends up winning Miss Universe Philippines and if she goes straight to Miss Universe, I don't think that in TEAtas of Pageantry will have the same enthusiasm if she still keeps the same team that doesn't honor their end of the bargain, if you know what I mean. But will this affect Alexi in the long run? Probably not, because as Alexi, she definitely has all of the attributes of succeeding as a beauty queen in this industry. Now I want to talk about our next girl, which is, of course, Miss Laguna. Now, Alex is someone that I resonate with because we're both animal lovers, particularly a lover of cats. Now, I want to talk about her strength because I consider Alex one of the dark horse in this competition. She's out there. She's not out there. I mean, she's not bagging all of the awards from the challenges, but she's also one of the most consistent girls out here when it comes to sex appeal. Like when I see Alex as a woman, I want to be that woman. I want to have that body. I want to have that walk. I want to have that skin tone. Like I feel that she is an amazing representation of a modern Filipino beauty. Her pasarela is solid as well. She has a really nice and welcoming personality, and it's absolutely open. I remember when she joined Binibining Pilipinas, she wasn't quite as polished, and communication skills was just something that needed to be worked on. And then during the pandemic, I also remember that she worked for a real estate company virtually, and this was the narrative that she pointed out when she competed for Supermodel Worldwide International, something like that, because she is an international title holder as well. And I remember I asked her about the improvement in her communication skills, and she mentioned that she worked virtually, and she was selling real estate, and then she had the realization that the people that she was communicating with had no problems with her English, had no problems with that they had no problems with her grammar. So I remember she was telling me how it gave her confidence to really just go for it, because she had a realization that it was only the Filipinos who had issues with the way she spoke and the way she composed her sentences. And I thought that was an amazing realization. I also would like to commend her strength for her advocacy. This is someone who put up a business just because she was advocating also for animal welfare. So, Alex really is the real deal. And definitely she has the experience as one of the title holders this year. So definitely someone to watch out for, because when I look at her, I feel that if she doesn't secure Miss Universe Philippines, she might really be a good successor to a Mutiada Tool at Miss Supranational. I don't know. Now, in terms of her areas of improvement or weaknesses, I think that it really has something to do just with popularity. Although she is already known because she was a former Binibini and, a pageant girl through and through, I also feel that she's not the most popular girl in this competition. And it's not really a big deal, because once you earn that Philippine sash, people will rally for you. But these are like the little things that I'm noticing that might not be in her favor. That's how I feel about Alex from Laguna. And then I want to talk about Miss Leyte. Of course, Angel Rose is, again, in terms of strength, she is one of the most consistent girls for materials and outputs. So again, if we send her internationally, we would be assured that we would be kept entertained, because everything that she produces are glossy. Everything that she produces are well thought of. And, of course, this is part of the game. She definitely has the credential as an engineer. We put a premium on girls who have degrees. We put a premium on girls who have gone through higher education. So we always feel that this is definitely someone who can hold her own when it comes to communicating with people. So her strength also lies with her communication skills. As for her weaknesses and her areas of improvement, just like with Alex, we know her, but she doesn't have like the biggest fan base to really push her to the top. And the fan base, unfortunately, is something that we have to consider, because ang labanan ngayon is talagang puspusang botohan, puspusang support para at ingay para sa kandidata. So, yeah. And then, of course, I want to talk about Miss Palawan with you. I think that just like with Alex, Miss Palawan, Raven Doctor, is one of my dark horses in this competition, just because she's actually quite solid. Definitely, during the duration of this whole pre-pageant activities, there is recognition for her height. At only 18, I think she is one of the tallest girls in the competition. Her pasarela, we've talked about this. She was one of the pleasant surprises at the swimsuit competition, because we got to see how confident she was with her pasarela too. And then, of course, in terms of communication skills, like even if she doesn't have a spotlight as being the most popular girl in the competition, we were all on the same page when we heard her speak, when we heard her defend her case, and she was so level-headed about everything at only 18. So if this is something that was displayed as early as now, in a few months, in a few years, definitely we will have a stronger Raven Doctor. Is this something that we can push for at Mexico? Definitely. But what's good about her is that she is eligible in all of the other titles that are up for grabs. And if we're really pushing it, she might even be a great candidate for Miss Supranational. Now, in terms of her weaknesses or her areas of improvement, her youth, which is definitely her ace, could also spell her weakness, because these days, not a lot of these pageants would bank on someone so young. And then I also would like to talk about her styling, because I also feel that she hasn't really locked in on a team or maybe individuals that could really elevate her styling. But she has the frame, she has the potential. I hope she finds the right people to really repackage her to the Miss Universe Philippines we know is in there somewhere. Now I want to talk about Siril Pumo of Pampanga. Now Siril for me has been hot and cold this season, and unfortunately she's more cold for me this season. But I am not fretting, because if she does not get considered for Miss Universe Philippines, there are still a number of titles that she would be perfect in. However, I want to discuss her strength. I feel that height is definitely might. She's hard to miss because she's one of the tallest. Her physique is also in order. So when you're that tall, you really have to also work on your body so that you won't end up looking really clunky. And then, of course, we have the experience, because this is someone who has gone around the pageantry scene for so long. And she is, in fact, one of the international title holders that we have here at Miss Universe Philippines. If I'm going to talk about her weakness, I will be talking about her styling, because although she has scored some hits, none of them were truly memorable. It wasn't like a conversation we had during her national costume show at Binibining Pilipinas that everybody talked about it. Though I felt that for this year, she was appropriate with her styling, but also just cruising along. And then, even if Cyril is one of the tallest girls in the competition, we have some issues with her presence. And this was brought about by one of the commenters from our live sesh, who would always keep on asking, like, where is Cyril? Where is Cyril? So I think we've established that there have been competitions or challenges that are streamed in the past that the cameraman would totally forget about her, and that's not a good sign if the cameraman forgets about you. And although she can hold her own when she's speaking in terms of comm skills, eloquence is something that has to be worked on, because the thought process is there, the narrative is there, the delivery is just something that needs to be improved or worked on. And so I want to move into our next girl, which is, of course, Quezon Province. I would say that Atisa is the heavy favorite in this competition, but I like what I'm seeing, because she is a heavy favorite, but she's also working her ass. She's not just waiting for that title. Just for this alone, I think that she is in one of the best positions to take that Miss Universe Philippines title. In fact, I feel like she is honestly the safest choice. Let me try to defend why. First of all, the face is something that is undeniable. There have been so many challenges at Miss Universe Philippines, and somehow you wait for that face to come up. Height, we don't have any problems with this, because she's competitive. Like, if they're all standing together, the difference isn't as stark. So she has the physique for this. She has the proportions to make herself appear taller than she actually is. Of course, there's experience. Like, how many of these girls can say that they reached first runner-up at Miss International? That should be absolutely major. And when we're talking about clout, we're talking about people who have invested years of support for an Atisa Manalo. This is something that cannot be erased in just one night, in just one misstep. In fact, in 2020, there was an incident that wasn't too favorable for Atisa, and now it is no longer part of the narrative. Now, people are solidly supporting Atisa. It doesn't matter whether she had a little bit of an incident in 2020. Now she is ready, and now people are ready to support her as well. So the support system is solid, the fan base is solid as well. When it comes to her weaknesses or her areas of improvement, I would say styling, only because they have been very experimental this whole time. They wanted to really go for a Latina look, but maybe they kind of forgot that a Latina look also has many facets. It's not just a marimar. Latina look. It could be an old Hollywood Maria Felix look. It could be a Dolores Del Rio or anyone from the golden age of Latin cinema or Mexican cinema. We want Atisa to look like a hashindera. We want her to look like um, someone who doesn't get touched by the sun, or someone who rides horses. We have that vision. In fact, I think she's closer to, I don't know, maybe the aristocrats that the families of the Carolina Herreras or anyone from Colombia or Venezuela would like rub shoulders with. I see her in that setting. So if they can turn things around and, you know, stop with the fake tan, stop with the overly long extensions, I think that she definitely has a fighting chance because that face is absolutely beautiful. I also want to call out her relatability and her advocacy because I think that her competition is just so well curated. You're having a hard time relating to someone like Atisa, who doesn't seem to have had a lot of struggles in life. But I'm sure that's not true. It's just that they curated her materials in such a way to show that she doesn't really have a lot of problems to begin with. And I don't know if that's relatable enough. And I don't know if this is even gonna matter in the long run. But if she wants to be at our level, I think that she really has to solidify this and solidify her advocacy, which we also hardly see in her socials. But in terms of will we be embarrassed to send someone like Atisa Manalo? I do not think so. People say that her comm skills isn't quite as strong. I agree with you, but it's not that bad. And I feel that when you meet someone for the first time in the Miss Universe setting, you don't really talk to someone about how deep your issues are and what you want to do for your country and your advocacies and your life story. I think it will always go by something light, something that will really spark a friendly relationship, but not to the point of confessing to that person just so that person will think you're deep enough for this position. So just for all of these things, I think, honestly, Atisa is her safest choice to send as Miss Universe Philippines. One of the strongest and one of the most popular girls in the competition is actually Miss Taguig Christy Macari. She was a former Miss Intercontinental Philippines representative for 2015, and then prior to that, she also represented the US. So, you know, this girl has been around. Definitely, she's one of the most recognized girls in the competition. When you get to see her, there's no defense. She is that glamazon beauty. She has the height. She has the physique. Her styling, of course, because of her connection, she does not have any issues with styling. But her comm skills are also quite commendable, I guess, because she is someone who gets to travel. Of course, she gets to mingle with a lot of these bougie folks. So yeah, her comms are out there, and her line of work as a DJ, as a model, as a host, these are all amazing components as to sending someone well-rounded and sending someone super confident at Miss Universe. She is the noun. Is she the verb? Most likely not, because I'm looking at her weaknesses and her areas of improvement. And it just seems that she does not move the same way we want her to move in relation to how she actually looks. Like, I remember seeing fairy skin footage of her on the ramp turning. It was just so awkward. There is a huge question mark as to where that pageant training is now, because it's not showing up. I mean, she shows up as an absolutely amazing looking, spectacular pageant girl, but when she moves, just does not quite match. Another thing is that I'd like to talk about her energy, because energy is also related to movements. It's not quite as polished, and people just are looking for, where is that training? You're supposed to master this because you're already an established model, not just in print, but on ramp as well. So yeah, something that they really have to work on. I also feel that relatability is somewhat lost in Christy Macari. She is a really absolutely darling person. I've spoken to her so many times, but see, for your competition at Miss Universe Philippines, you're not trying to gain approval of the people within your circle. You're trying to win the approval of everyone who's going to be supporting you internationally. And I also feel, as was pointed out by someone from the live session, that everything about her is just so bougie. Like when you see her materials, it's always BGC. It's always surrounded by the fashion people, by the events, by everyone we cannot even relate to. And there's very little exposure of what she has been working on behind the scenes. There's very little exposure on her getting down and dirty that isn't a beach setting. So just for this alone, I feel that just to tie loose ends, she has such an amazing potential. In fact, we have waited for her for so long. I would be saddened if she did not give it her all come finals, because she's already there. I mean, what's the point of going back after so many years if you're not going to give it your all? Next, I would like to shed a spotlight on our very own Miss UK Phil community. She is, of course, Christina Chalk. Her strength definitely lies with that face. This is a classic beauty. And I feel like this is a commercial beauty that we could all resonate with, because a lot of us grew up in that time that this type of beauty would be seen on magazines and TV commercials, ponds, cream silk, or any of those babaihan beauties. She's absolutely eloquent, and I guess it has something to do with her background. She is Scottish Filipina, and you know how it is when you speak English with an accent, ukay-ukay accent. It's really appealing to a lot of us. Her narrative is something that is powerful. This is someone who went through mental health challenges and is standing firm right now, but just based on what she went through, it just seemed so difficult to find your light after going through such darkness. So the narrative, I feel, is very powerful in terms of Miss UK's candidacy. And of course, she's absolutely sophisticated. She's more mature. Yes, I totally get it. But with maturity also comes eloquence, also comes sophistication, and that really resonates. It really shows through her personality. In terms of areas of improvement or weakness, I honestly am not really seeing a lot. It's just that she isn't the most popular. She isn't the most well talked about representative this year at Miss Universe Philippines. So if we can all look past that and just allow her to compete, I think she also has a fighting chance in entering the semifinals. And the last girl on my list is, of course, Miss Zambales Anita Rose. I added Anita Rose because I don't think that she has a fighting chance at the Miss Universe Philippines crown, but she might have a chance at the other titles. And I say this because her strength, which is her physique, that beautiful body of hers, that small waist of hers that is just so covetable, I feel that this is also her downfall, because Anita this whole time was reduced to just the body. She has a narrative, yes. She has a story. She has struggles. And they have been well presented during this competition, but just somehow it just seemed like she was overpowered by everyone. So in terms of strength, she has the physique, but in terms of weakness, I also feel that's the thing that's also limiting her. And when you add experience to this, because Anita is a pageant girl, but honestly, she has never really pushed herself out there to join the nationals. And this is her first foray at the nationals. If she doesn't succeed now, she definitely has a higher chance of succeeding in the near future, which means that people will most likely not push for giving Anita a title, or at least one of the titles, just for this alone. Her experience, we cannot really bank on Anita. Eloquence is something that has to be worked on, because even if she is someone who did well in school and had overcome hindrances as a person, to articulate this and to really tell your story in a way that we would all listen, this has to be absolutely practiced and worked on. So there you have it. But if I were a judge at Miss Universe Philippines, I would definitely check these out. Because when you're judging a candidate for the major competitions, it's great when you get to know them, when you get to like really check out their journey, really get to form opinions on them. But if they do not get to perform at the finals, I do not think that all of these discussion will even amount to anything. So I'm hoping that the girls that are consistent here, I'm really hoping that they do well in the finals. And just for a parting word, if I were to choose anyone from the girls that I discussed as to who will be sent to Miss Universe tomorrow, considering everything, I will still send Atisa Manalo. Things that are lacking in Atisa are not really lacking at all. It's just that they are less pronounced. So the way I see it, she has everything. And this is her title to lose. So on this note, good luck, Atisa, and good luck to the other girls. I hope that you give us a show just in case the production falters. So guys, thank you so much, and I'll see you very, very soon. Bye!